Science. I love it. But it has a lot of flaws. Maybe not a lot of flaws, but it has some big flaws. This is a channel where essentially I'm just thinking out loud while working out. So I will share with you why I think that. Now I will also be doing week 2 of Greg Nuckols' free strength training program here. I am back to bench. I will be starting with 2 sets of 5 of my 80% max. So stick around for things that you might think are weird thoughts, and stick around if you want to get stronger. I'll help you experience both those things. 3, 4. So my mind was just kind of wandering a week or two ago, and I just happened to make a connection that seemed to make sense, at least in my mind. And it was a little bit of a correlation between the perception that we have of salesmen and scientists. And just to kind of explain that and get it out of the way, salesmen, especially like car salesmen, have a really bad rap, or rep, whatever. No, it's rap. Yeah, whatever. I'm 34, I don't know what to say. You always feel like they're trying to push something on you, or that they're not being completely honest with you, and that really all they care about is the commission. And you're not wrong about that. Now, I definitely don't think that that means that most salesmen are bad people. I definitely don't think that. I think most of them are good people, but you know, you're working to provide for your family and do what you want to do with the money, and not necessarily to make sure that everybody gets the perfect car or whatever for themselves. But I thought that was funny, because we don't view scientists like that at all, and we shouldn't. You know, it's not like they're trying to push something on you most of the time. But the reason why I made that correlation is because there have been plenty of studies that have found out to be corrupt, whether you know they're trying to push a certain agenda, so they are skewing stats and data in the favor of that, or they are getting paid to get certain results. The best example that comes to mind for me was the whole era, I guess in the 80s and 90s, fat was considered super bad for you, and you should do all these substitutes for fat, whether it's different types of seed oils or margarine. But anyway, it was the era of low fat, and fat was really, really bad for you, and there was plenty of evidence out there that was designed to make you believe that fat was the cause of deaths and stuff that were happening. It was really bad for your health. And they also did the same thing with sugar. Scientists were paid to make you think that sugar wasn't all that bad for you, so that the food industries could just pump things full of sugar to help you get addicted to it, and it also allowed them to make things for a lot cheaper. But that was massive. You know, you think about how many people were thinking that they were eating healthy and probably ended up dying from maybe consuming too much sugar and unhealthy fats or fat substitutes back in the day. And there are other studies that I've heard of before that I can't recall at the moment that have been verified to be falsified and manipulated in order to get certain results. Three. So that's why I made that connection of sleazy salesmen with sleazy scientists, because, you know, in both cases you have people that are pushing agendas that, you know, aren't true or flat out lies in order to profit. But part of what I find really interesting about the scientific side of things is that regardless of your political view, both sides of the political spectrum use science or research and data as reasonings for their beliefs. So science has ingrained itself in our society to where whatever is the newest, latest thing to come out, it seems to be almost taken at face value. And I'm not saying there's necessarily anything wrong with that, because I really do believe in the pursuit of science, and it's arguably the most important thing that we can do is to, you know, find out the meaning to everything. That's the pursuit of science, essentially. But I think we have a tendency in our culture to think of science as, okay, we have the answer. It's like we've done the research and we have figured it out, and that's the way that it is. You know, for the left side of things, global warming is very scientifically backed, and there's a lot of research to show that maybe that's something that we need to be concerned about. And then on the right side of things, you know, you have the whole Ben Shapiro facts. What does he say? He says facts don't care about your feelings, and you know that's scientific and data backed. The reason why he says that. So it's very interesting to me that both sides of the political party kind of worship the same scientific God in a sense, and use that as a foundation for, you know, getting followers or getting a political movement going. I've had a hard time trying to figure out exactly what my feelings on science are, other than the fact that I think it is really, really important, and again, not anything that we should throw out. But I don't really know how to verify anything for myself. You know, it's not like I'm going to go out and do all the research for the things that all these people are doing. So we do have to have a level of trust within the scientific community because, again, I just can't, you know, even if I were to dedicate my life to finding out how to make solar energy more efficient, that's just one tiny aspect of scientific research. There's just no way that one person can do it all themselves. And even on the things that have been considered foundational for a long time now, like space and time, the theory of evolution, those are things that there's plenty of people within other areas of science that think, no, that's, you know, the data doesn't back that up too much when you start digging too deep. One of my favorite guys that I've listened to over the years is Donald Hoffman, and he thinks that there's a lot of evidence to support that we're not actually experiencing reality. And there's also Gödel's incompleteness theorem. I think I'm saying his name right. It's kind of awkward for me to say, but it's essentially a theory that says there's no way that you can ever prove a theory to be true. I tend to kind of agree with him on that, but people like Stephen Hawking have said that he thinks that there's probably tons of dimensions that we can't even access, that we can't even conceptualize or see or sense. You know, our senses don't even recognize them. So if we don't ever find a way, assuming that that's true, that there are other dimensions that we operate within, if we don't find a way to be able to access them, I guess, in a sense, in a way to put it, how are we ever supposed to find out if anything's real? I don't know. All right, I'm moving on to 4 sets of 3 reps with 85% of my 1 rep max. My chest is feeling super weak today. I didn't give myself quite as much recovery time as I'd like to for my last chest workout, but this is the last time this week that I will have the opportunity to do this with a video, so just got to get it done. In my last video, I touched on clarity a little bit and how valuable I think that is, so if you want to hear me talk about that a little bit more, then go watch the last video. But ultimately, that's what the scientific pursuit is just us trying to get more clarity on how life works. But there's always that voice in the back of my mind. It's like, I would love to be able to just take this research that, you know, kind of hits you right here that you believe in and just running with it. But I've kind of had a personal motto of mine since my early 20s is like question everything. And that just sticks to the back of my mind. It's hard to be able to trust something when you know there is falsified research and data that have been put out there. A weird side effect of feeling that way is you can almost shape your own story how you want to, because if you can't really trust anything, then you just kind of latch onto something that serves you in the moment or the current way you're living your life. And that's not a bad way to go about things. It's kind of how we do anything anyway. Any belief or feeling that you have is just a story that you tell yourself anyway, based off some past trauma or good experience. And yeah, that's just something that's set in stone until it's not anymore. We live by the stories we tell ourselves. Same thing with science. Now, on the flip side of all these things that I've been saying kind of negatively, science is freaking amazing. The fact that it's provided the things that we have in modern society is just incredible. I lots of times think about the fact that, you know, we literally have magic. The way that I look at it, if you were to go back 200 years ago and try and describe what we experience in modern day society, they would be, I mean, their minds are blown. My mind's blown and I live in it. You know, I'm too stupid to understand how most of the stuff around me, if not all the stuff around me, works anyway, but it's just amazing. Same thing with the theory of evolution and space and time. The amount of things that you can put into those theories to kind of explain the way that the world operates and the way that things are is really amazing. And they're incredible theories. There's a reason why they've stood the test of time up until this point. So like I said, I love science. I just think it's interesting and important to be aware of the flaws of it. And to bring this back full circle, sales is super important too. That is a big reason why we operate in the way that we do and the world is the way that it is. Sales is just persuasion, and obviously being able to convince people to take risks on new drugs or new technology has paid dividends in modern society. So both of them have two sides of the same coin. There's a bad side and a good side, just like pretty much everything in life. I often think about what could be the scientific error of our time currently, something that I'm completely bought into or believe that is just going to be proven false in 2 or 3 decades. Going back to the fake fat and sugar side of things, where everybody thought that that was better for you for whatever reason, and then you can go even further back to see what kind of things they did with hard drugs back in the day. You know, cocaine actually being in Coca-Cola, and even just opioids. It's not even that long ago, and we still use opioids for a lot of medical reasons, but the crisis that that's caused has been awful. I do tend to think of it more nutritionally, just because that's the side of things that I am most interested in and follow more closely. All right, moving on to incline tricep extensions here. This is 3 sets of 8, and if you are doing this or following along, then it's just whatever tricep extension you want to do, you can pick, but this is the one that I like to do. So I probably am not doing a very good job on these tricep extensions of keeping my elbows back and in. And I'm feeling it in my left elbow a little bit. I think that mostly has to do with the fact that I haven't given myself enough time to recover. But if you are doing these, try and pick a weight where you can. Keep the elbows as far back over your head as you can, because that just puts more stretch and tension on the tricep. And keep the elbows in. So maybe do what I say and not what I do, depending on what you're about to see next. Well, we found failure on that one. I am tired today. Today is one of those days where for work I had to drive over 100 miles, and it was one of those where I'm just laid back like this, trying to keep my eyes open. But I actually, on days where I'm super tired and don't feel like working out, are the days where I want to work out the most. Just because, first off, I love to work out every day. I just enjoy it. It makes me feel better. Second, it turns it into a little bit more of a mental aspect, because you got to stay focused to make sure that you're not going to injure yourself, because you are more likely to injure yourself if you're tired and haven't completely recovered as much as you should from your last workout. So be smart about it if you want to do that too, because I have learned the hard way. The first few years of working out, I probably spent a third of it injured and not doing the things that I wanted to do. But hey, I guess I was just one of those idiots that had to learn the hard way. Last set here, I am hopeful to get 5. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm cheating a lot. 4. That last one shouldn't count, but I'm going to count it anyway. When it comes to muscle growth, I do think there is value to very, very carefully doing reps that maybe don't have the best form, because failure with good form isn't necessarily the same as muscle fatigue all the time. I think the curls are a good example of that. If you're doing curls and you just can't get any more while you're just standing there doing them, then you know, if you can put more tension on the muscle, go ahead and swing. Go ahead and do a couple of these. Go ahead and do like some quarter reps, some half reps, whatever. Just as long as you're careful, you know, don't get hurt. That's just gonna set you back even further. But yeah, I'm counting the last one because I still felt a ton of tension on the tricep, even though that rep was ugly as hell. Moving on to dumbbell press, 3 sets of 8. I might have to lower my weight a little bit, but I want to try with it first. And that's why you just go ahead and try, because sometimes you just do it and you start off underestimating yourself and then you're pleasantly surprised when you actually do it. If there's anyone still watching to this point, I would love to get some feedback on the thoughts that I've shared with you so far, because outside of religious groups, you don't really find anyone out there that is saying, hey, beware of science. And I'm not saying that from a religious perspective, I'm just saying that from an evidence-based perspective as far as I'm concerned. So maybe I'm a scientist myself. I'm just an at-home scientist saying whatever comes to mind, because that's definitely similar to scientific theory. 3, 4, 5. I love how with weightlifting, you can clearly see yourself progressing if you're doing it the right way and you're doing it for long enough. I'm using 90 pounds on these dumbbells here. And I remember when I got these, probably 4 or 5 years ago now, I don't remember how long exactly, but I couldn't do a single rep with the 90 pounds. I think maybe I could do like 70, 75. And now after doing other weight work with on the chest, and feeling a little bit weak today, I'm repping out the 90s. So it's so fun watching the progression in yourself and other people. You know, if you got a buddy that you're working out with, I got someone that comes out and works with me once a week. And it's really fun seeing him progress too. And he has done like no weightlifting in his life. So he's getting those newbie gains. It's a lot of fun. I just like progression. I love it in video games. I love Elden Ring progression, for example, just seeing yourself get stronger and stronger, and bosses that you've died to 100 times get weaker and weaker. And one of my favorite fantasy genres is lit RPG, literary RPG, if you haven't heard that before. But essentially it's just a video game in a book. You usually just follow a character around that's literally leveling stats and doing quests and clearing dungeons and stuff. So yeah, I'm kind of obsessed with progression. Maybe addicted to it. I don't care. It's fun. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I also love those sets like that where you literally are stopping on the last one. There's no way I would have been able to do one more rep of that. And lastly, I will be doing some weighted chin-ups. Last week I only did body weight, so I only have 12 pounds in here, going for 10 reps. I'm going to try not to kip and flail too much, if at all, hopefully. We are aiming for 3 sets of 10 here. My biceps are sore from my last workout, and I did some pull-ups yesterday, so back end biceps are feeling a little bit. But hey, I still got 10 this week with a little bit of extra weight. 12 pounds isn't much, unless you're trying to 1 rep max, then it's a lot. But for some chin-ups, it'll do. Something that would be awesome as a result of me doing this video is just a comment saying, yeah, you made me think of something that I hadn't necessarily considered before. That would be great. If that's all I can do with this channel, then that's enough, because I think it's really cool to get people to think of things that they haven't thought of before. I love it when that happens to me. I love it when people present new ideas to me. Just don't have any existential crises. Take it from someone that has let that kind of thing steal way too much joy and happiness out of my life. Ultimately, it just doesn't really matter. I'm gonna die, we're all gonna die, and that is okay. But don't let that be an existential crisis for you, because it's okay. It's reality. Flip it, let it empower your life, let it cause you to overcome fear and chase the thing that you want to do and make that leap that you've been wanting to make, because, you know, life is short. You only have so much time. Seven, 8, 9, 10. Seven, 8, 9, 10. Oh. The YouTube gurus that have successful channels, or at least they make it look like they have successful channels, say that you need to pick a niche and stick to it. And that is not what I'm doing here. Doing fitness videos, working out, and just kind of sharing my thoughts. I don't know if anyone else is doing that, so I just know that I love doing both those things. I love trying to get stronger and figure out how the human mind operates. So that's what I'm doing, and you have made a contribution to that, and I really appreciate that. So thank you a lot, and I'll see you next time. Bye!